The Dixie Flyer was meant to bring joy and thrills, but one day it brought tragedy instead. A ride that promised excitement turned deadly when a malfunction occurred, sending a car off course. The sudden failure caused one rider to be thrown from the car, striking the ground with fatal force after being dragged on until her death. Panic and chaos erupted as onlookers realized what had happened. Families who had come for a day of fun were instead confronted with grief and horror. The park, usually filled with laughter, fell silent in the shadow of the accident. That single moment of mechanical failure changed lives forever, leaving sorrow that lingered long after the ride stopped. It became a haunting reminder that even in the pursuit of fun, safety can never be taken for granted. The Dixie Flyer's tragic accident remains etched in the memory of Summit Beach Park's history. At Expoland, the coaster Fujin Raijin 2 had been running for years without major issues or incidents, which had made the venue a perfect spot for entertainment and fun. But underneath the train, something had been quietly wearing down. A cracked axle. The axle had been cracked for a long time, but no one caught it due to negligent maintenance. One day, during a normal ride, that axle finally snapped. One car derailed and struck a structure beside the track. The force was sudden and brutal. A woman was killed instantly. Investigators found the part hadn't been properly inspected for a long time. It wasn't a sudden failure. It was something that had been building, unnoticed, until it was too late. The Son of the Beast stood as a record breaker at Kings Island in Ohio, an enormous wooden coaster known for its speed, height, and intense ride experience. It was the kind of attraction that drew attention instantly, promising something bigger and more extreme than the rest. But in 2006, that took a different turn. During one run, the train experienced a structural issue that caused a sudden and violent jolt. Riders were left shaken, with several reporting injuries afterward. What made the incident even more daunting was how everyone remained oblivious to the peril until the last moments. It wasn't a single visible failure, but a deep issue in how the ride handled its own force, showing that even the biggest attractions can carry risks beneath the surface. In 1980, at Willard's Whizzer in California, a normal day at the park slowly turned into something far more horrific that went down as a deadly memory. That unfortunate day, several riders stepped into the train expecting a simple, harmless thrill, unaware that a critical safety system had already failed. As one train approached the loading area, the standard procedure expected it to slow down and stop at the mark. Instead, it kept moving, and within seconds, it crashed into another train waiting at the station. The impact was sudden and forceful, sending riders into confusion and panic. And in that moment of chaos, one man was thrown from his seat onto the track below. Before anyone could react or stop what was happening, the train moved over him, taking his life instantly. Around him, 8 others were left injured, shaken, and struggling to understand what had just happened. At Six Flags New England, the Superman Ride of Steel was fast, smooth, and popular, but no one knew it could prove very dangerous and even fatal. During one ride, a man wasn't properly secured, which may have been due to his own negligence or the staff's. As the train picked up speed and entered a turn, he was thrown from his seat. Other riders didn't realize what had happened right away. The ride continued, following its normal path. But when it returned to the station, the mood had completely changed. The silence, the confusion, it was clear something had gone very wrong. At Silver Dollar City, the fire in the whole ride was meant to thrill and entertain. But a single mistake turned the day into a nightmare. An operator, unaware that a train still carried passengers, switched it into the service area. The low roof of the service section became a deadly hazard. Shouts rang as riders tried to warn each other to duck. Most managed to escape serious injury, but one man didn't hear the warnings in time. He struck the low ceiling and was fatally injured. What should have been laughter and excitement became shock and grief in an instant. Families who came for fun were faced with a horrifying scene, and the park's lively atmosphere was replaced with silence and sorrow. That tragic accident serves as a stark reminder that even a small lapse in attention can have devastating consequences, leaving a mark on the memories of all who witnessed it. For years, the first name that came to mind at Tokyo Dome City for pure excitement was the Thunder Dolphin. It raced through buildings and narrow gaps, famous for how close it came to the surrounding structures, adding to the thrill. But in 2007, that thrill turned into shock. A metal panel suddenly came loose and fell, striking a rider below. The ride came to a halt, but it was already too late. In the moments that followed, people stopped watching the coaster itself. Instead, their eyes shifted upward to the structure around it, something once overlooked, now impossible to ignore. At Universal Orlando Resort, The Dragon Challenge was known for its twin coasters racing side by side. From below, it looked like the perfect mix of speed and excitement. But during one run, as the trains crossed paths, a rider was suddenly struck by an object. The ride was brought to a stop and later modified. What made the incident even more disturbing was how ordinary everything seemed just moments before. There were no visible signs of danger, no clear warning, and people were enjoying their quality time with their families. Yet somehow, something still went terribly wrong. The Ijin Naika at Fuji-Q Highland was just another source of excitement, something to watch, admire, and maybe dare to experience for most visitors. It remains a symbol of skillful engineering designed to push limits in a controlled way. But one incident showed how quickly that control can vanish. During a routine inspection, a worker stepped into the path of a moving train. It all unfolded in seconds, with no time to react. The injuries from this incident were fatal. What stayed with people afterwards was the realization that the danger isn't limited to the ride itself. Even off the track, in moments meant to be routine, these machines can still become deadly. Some tragedies don't begin with a sudden mistake. They build up quietly over time. A stark example of such incidents is the Quimera roller coaster at the La Feria Chapultepec, Mágico, Mexico. The Quimera roller coaster had been running for years, carrying thousands of riders without a second thought. People trusted it and believed it was safe. But one day, that trust was shattered. As the train moved along the track, something went terribly wrong. The car derailed, throwing riders into chaos and confusion. In seconds, excitement turned into fear. One man lost his life, and several others were seriously injured. There was no warning for the people on board, no time to react, just a normal ride that suddenly became a disaster. After the incident, questions began to surface about maintenance, inspections, and the hidden risks that had been ignored. The park, once full of laughter, was left in silence. The Raven was known as a classic in the holiday world, a fast, intense, and trusted ride by the many families who went on it every day. It had built a good reputation over time, one that made people feel secure the moment they sat down. But during one ride, that sense of security broke. A man was suddenly thrown off balance, and as the train took a turn, he lost his grip and fell out. The coaster continued along its track, just as it always had. For everyone else, though, the day was no longer the same. There was no mechanical failure, no visible warning, just a single decision that led to a tragic outcome, reminding everyone how quickly things can change. A holiday that should have been full of joy ended in tragedy at Termetica in Benidorm, Spain. An 18-year-old teenager from Iceland was on the green twisting roller coaster called the Inferno, enjoying his day with his family and a friend, when disaster struck. According to the police, a fault in the seat's harness caused him to be thrown from the ride. He fell from the ground and, despite efforts to save him, died shortly afterwards on the way to the hospital. Witnesses described the horror and shock that swept through the park in those terrifying moments. The amusement park stated that the ride had been officially certified as safe and was checked daily by staff. They emphasized their spotless safety record over the past 14 years and promised to fully investigate the cause of this tragic accident. For the family, a holiday meant for happiness turned into unbearable grief. The incident is a stark reminder that even in the safest places, tragedy can strike in a heartbeat. Each of these incidents shares a haunting truth. No ride is completely risk-free. Whether it's a sudden mechanical failure, or negligence in safety, or maintenance, the line between fun and accidents is thinner than we like to admit.